Hi, it's Richard Moore from Racing Profits Guides, and I'm up here at Mount House Stables with James Given, the trainer, and we're just going to talk a bit about James himself and some of the courses that he sends horses to. Give us a bit of an insight of what a trainer looks for when going to some of these courses, particularly the all-weather courses that we cover. Nice to meet you, James.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Very well, thanks, and you?
Good. Yeah, very good. What brought you into horse racing in the first place? Let's talk a bit about your history.
Well, as has been well documented, I'm a vet, and I went to work for Mark Johnston as his vet and assistant, and over the 3 years I was there, very much became more involved in the racing side than the veterinary side. Over the 3 years. I was lucky enough to win a scholarship, the Alex Scott Memorial Scholarship, and spend a month in Dubai.
Okay.
And when I got back from there, then it was the decision to be made, are you going to go training or vetting? And thought I'd have a go at training, and that was about 15 years ago, and I'm still in business. So
okay, I was going to say, when was that?
1998.
And you came straight to Willoughby, or did you?
Willerton.
You had a spell at Willerton. Sorry, you had a spell at Wolverhampton first, did you?
5 months at Wolverhampton to start off with. Yeah, Richard Muddle was very helpful. He made it a doable to train there and rent some boxes. And then he very kindly as well let me out of my contract to stay there. I'd signed a contract for a year to be able to move to Willerton in April '99, and have been here ever since.
And so you've got this yard, and you've got another yard down in Hemswell village itself.
Yeah. This yard is very much more for the young horses, the 2-year-olds, and the other yards for the older horses.
And we've had a look at some of the facilities here. Obviously, you've had a great success. You'd say more all-weather, or is it across all the flat?
I think it's horses for courses. You know, we have done well on the all-weather, but I think we've also done well on the turf. You know, we've had some
very nice winners,
high-level successes and good quality handicaps and group races. I think it's just trying to find what's the best race course for each horse.
And what are some of your highlights then of your career so far?
Well, early on we had some nice, good handicappers. I Cry For You won the Cambridgeshire, Hugs Dancer won the Ebor, the Chester Cup, and then we've had a number of group winning horses: Jessica's Dream, Wonder's Dream, Summitville, Lady Gloria, Dandino, Indian Days. You know, Indian Days was one example of a nice horse. He won the Bosphorus Cup in Turkey 2 years in a row, Group 2 in Turkey 2 years in a row. You know, not just domestically, but internationally as well.
Okay, James, let's talk a bit about the all-weather then. I mean, over the last 5 seasons, you've had 91 odd winners on the all-weather, so people would regard you as a bit of an all-weather specialist. But I think, like you say, it is horses for courses. Let's talk a bit about Southwell Racecourse, if we can, to start with. Probably your closest course, is it, on the all-weather?
Yes, it's only 25 miles away or something, just the other side of Newark from here, so it's very local to us. It is a great configuration. It's got a straight 5 furlongs. It's got what is about a 3.5, 4 furlong run in from the bend. Nice sweeping bends. The only drawback to it is the surface. It's the only fibre sand left all-weather track, and not all horses handle it, and not all horses handle the kickback that you get off it. They have had problems there with being flooded twice in the last 5 years or so, and the surface either being washed away or part washed away. And it is a great shame that that's been the case, because if they had the confidence to be able to invest into Polytrack there, then it would be the best all-weather track in Europe. You know, it's certainly not always the best horse wins at Southwell, because it might get kicked back, a bad draw, and some don't actually physically handle the surface. Although the surface can change, if you think about the seashore, you know, when you're in the dry summer months, you're up near the dunes and it's loose and it's deep. And then in the winter months, when there's a lot of rain, well, more rain around, there's more moisture in the track.
It's a lot firmer.
It's a lot firmer. As you closer you get to the actual breaking the sea, the sand firms up. Equally, it then reaches a critical point where it gets too wet, and then it starts to puddle. So it'll take rain up to a point and get quicker and quicker, and then it'll puddle and suddenly go slower. So yeah, but not all horses handle that that surface. And so I say, not all horses handle the kickback. But I think the configuration of the track is good. You know,
is there a slight camber on the bends as well? Does that help the horses?
That certainly helps them come around the bends. Certainly does. Yeah. I suppose you get that with any configuration of a track, that you've got all distances at 5, 6, 7 and a mile, but then you jump up to 1 mile and 3, but that's just the configuration of the track.
So you're not starting on the bend, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, you can't start on a bend or too close to a bend. But I like the track. The only thing is the surface. I guess if I lived near a polytrack track, I would perhaps race there more. I think it's the geography that's very helpful to us. You know, transport costs are not cheap in this country now, the price of diesel and so on. So we do tend to patronise there quite a bit, but then not all horses handle it.
But you've had quite a lot of success there, haven't you?
We have,
Royal Bayesian does well there. Kung Hai Fat Choy. Any other horses there that run well that you've got?
No Dominion has run well there at the back end of last year. I think it's a race course that just gives people, the horses, confidence to get on with it, really.
And you always look for a horse that's done well there once it'll usually continue doing well there, will it?
Well, I think so. Yeah, I think the fact that a horse has done well there once shows it handles the surface.
And is it the kickback or is it the surface, or a combination of the two?
It's definitely both. Yeah, I mean, some horses, we used to have one old boy who sadly died, but he didn't mind the kickback. A horse called Cool Sands, who won a lot of races there. He didn't mind the kickback, or at least he got on with it. Some horses, they'll face it once and then they don't like it again.
And what is it about it? It's just that they don't like things being kicked in the face.
Well, the density of the sand coming back, particularly when it's a little bit drier, the sand comes up higher. And when you look at any of the horses coming in,
and the jockeys,
absolutely covered in it, and you think that horse is breathing in deeply and blowing out hard. And it's not just into their lungs, but into their eyeballs. It just can't be a pleasant experience. And no wonder they say they've had enough of that.
Yeah. And do you think the running style as well suits the type of horse there? Because people talk about a high knee action being important there, or is it actually more to do with the kickback and?
Well, it's both the kickback and the handling the surface, and I'm not always sure that the high knee action helps. I mean, I've sent horses there with a high knee action that haven't handled the surface.
Really? Yeah.
So I'm not sure that's always the case. It's just an ability to find traction on the surface as they're stretching forward for one, and secondly when they're pushing off from behind.
Right.
It's just some handle of stuff, but again, I say, it can be different in the summer as it can be in the winter. It can ride a lot quicker in the winter.
Do you equate the turf sort of good to soft? A lot of people say equates to the same.
I don't think,
or is it such a unique surface you can't?
I think it is. Yeah, you see horses. Not many horses don't handle the surface. Quite a lot of horses don't handle a kickback. But I'm not sure I would necessarily. I've never really been confident that you can absolutely equate good to soft or soft ground with Southwell. It seems a logical assumption to make, but I don't think it is always actually correct.
So were there no other tracks that you'd run a horse at and think, oh, that horse will go well at Southwell, or is it more when you're training them at home here on the Gallops, you think that's definitely a horse that could do well on the sand? Or is it again just trying it there?
I think it's a trial and error, because certainly I think there's a view that high knee action helps the horses, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. No. It is a question of you have to try them first time.
And in the sprint races, obviously it's the only straight 5 furlong on the all-weather in the country. Is there any sort of draw you prefer to get there, or is there any area of the track you like your jockeys when you're giving them instructions? Do you sort of say, well, let's go down the middle, or do you like them to be just off the rail?
I think it can vary as well, depending on the weather. Certainly it does seem to be quicker. The established wisdom seems to be quicker middle to stand side. But again, I think depending how many runners you've got, it's always better to be giving the horse something to race against, not necessarily a rail, but a race against a horse rather than isolation. I don't think there's an awful lot of time for tactics over 5 furlongs at Southwell.
So fast, is it?
Yeah, because if you get behind, that's one of the things about the surface, is it's not easy to pick up. It's the closest thing we have to American dirt racing, where it's jump and last man standing.
So you don't come off the pace very easily at all?
No, not generally speaking. You don't see many horses coming from too far back at Southwell to come and win.
Even with that long straight, it's hard, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's because they generally go fairly hard early to get a position to avoid the kickback.
Right,
and it's
yeah.
that American style of, you know,
Get there.
run hard and just see if you can keep going. And also the surface, it's not an easy surface to find acceleration off.
Right. So once you've got that positive position,
Yeah.
you can usually hold it. Yeah.
But I think it's a combination of doing a bit more early than they do on some race courses, on some surfaces. But also it's then more difficult to pick up off the surface later on in the race. So it's a combination of the two.